Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Tiff with Voices for Independence Fitness and Activities, bringing you a delicious recipe for dinner. So what we're going to be making today is a broccoli and cauliflower rice chicken casserole. It's fairly simple to make. There's some prep work involved before we put it in the oven, but minimal ingredients, which makes it very easy. For this recipe, you want 1 head of cauliflower or about 2 10-ounce bags of cauliflower rice. And what I did, I had some chopped cauliflower, so I made my own cauliflower rice. You can do that by either chopping it fine by hand, or you can pulse it in a food processor until it's all approximately the same size and texture. And then what you're going to want to do, we also need about 16 ounces of broccoli chopped. We don't want that too small. And what you're going to do is cook. You can use frozen or fresh. The recipe says frozen. I had fresh, but they'll work out the same, and they just say cook according to the instructions. So if you have fresh cauliflower that you're making yourself for cauliflower rice, you just want to cover it in a piece of saran wrap and microwave for about 3 to 4 minutes, or you can steam it in your stovetop in a steaming basket or whatever way you steam your vegetables, and do the same with your broccoli. So those were prepared. So we do steam the cauliflower and broccoli ahead of time. You also need 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast for this recipe. Again, baked it ahead of time. I just butterflied it, meaning cutting it horizontally and baking at 350 for about 40 minutes. And then once you're done, you're going to want to take your chicken breasts once they cool and cut them into bite-sized pieces. So I just kind of cut them on the diagonal. The meat cuts the most efficiently that way. When you cut it on the diagonal after it's cooked, it won't tear as much. And then we're just going to go back the other direction and cut it into bite-sized pieces or cubes. You'll want to do that for the whole 2 pounds. Now, 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts is about 3 medium-sized chicken breasts. This doesn't make a big casserole, so a 3-quart pan, so you're going to be able to either serve your family, or you can freeze portions of this to have later on. So we have our cauliflower, our baked chicken, our broccoli. You're also going to need everybody's favorite cheese. It calls for about 3 cups of shredded mozzarella. I'm using about 2 cups. I try to watch my cheese intake just because it is a processed food, and it is higher in sodium and some saturated fat. So again, we don't need a lot of it. As long as you're not eating it every day at every meal, it's okay. And then we will be mixing that in. You'll need 2 eggs and then some seasonings. We have salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder according to the recipe, and those are my favorite. And then you'll need 2 tablespoons of butter, or I'm using olive oil as an alternative today. If you're using butter, make sure you melt the butter. So what you're going to want to do once you've prepped all your ingredients, again, we're steaming our cauliflower, our broccoli, baking our chicken before these go in the oven. Lots of times casseroles, when you make them, a lot of it's prep work, and you cook and prepare everything beforehand. Then we put in the oven to heat everything through, mesh those delicious flavors, and melt those cheeses. So we are going to just start combining all our ingredients. So we're going to use our large bowl, and we're going to add our broccoli right to that. And again, when you are steaming, make sure you get rid of as much liquid as possible. So use your strainer if you added water in the steaming process. Mine, I just steamed in the microwave, which I typically don't do, but I was trying to get everything ready for the live. So it's a quick way to steam and cook your vegetables. So we're just going to kind of mix the cauliflower and the broccoli together. Now they're warm. I let them cool down a little bit beforehand, because when we go to add our egg, we want to be careful. We don't want the egg to start cooking. So let your broccoli and cauliflower cool down a bit before you add your egg in. We're also going to add our 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast. Again, remember, this makes a really large portion. So if you're just cooking for yourself and you don't really want many leftovers, cut this recipe in half. It'll make plenty for you or 2 other people. We'll probably end up freezing ours so we have some ready-to-go meals when we're in a hurry or to grab on the go to reheat for lunch or something like that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out a different spatula to mix this better. That way we can fully incorporate all our ingredients. I'm going to get the cauliflower and broccoli and chicken mixed together first, and then we'll start adding in our seasonings, and lastly our egg. Again, egg is used as a binder or the glue to hold things together. That's why we add eggs to recipes lots of times. So I'm going to just fold those in a little more, and now we're going to add just 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Again, you can eyeball it if you've been seasoning and cooking a lot. We're also going to add about 2 teaspoons of onion powder. Whoops, there goes my lid. And then we're going to add about the same amount of salt and pepper. So again, to taste, I always go lighter on the salt because different people have different dietary needs where salt can affect their bodies. So I always go light on the salt, and that because that's something you can always add at mealtime, and it will have the same effect on the dish. A little bit of pepper, and then stir in those delicious seasonings, folding them in with all your other ingredients. And then we are going to, at this point, I'm going to take my 2 eggs and I'm going to crack them in a bowl separately and whisk them up a little bit. Because this has lots of texture in it, it'll be harder to incorporate a whole raw egg. So I am going to mix it up a little bit beforehand to make it a little bit easier to incorporate into our casserole base. So we're just going to crack them in a small little bowl here. And then I'm just going to whisk them up to break up those yolks and make it one little more cohesive of a mixture here. So just enough, whisk it just enough to break up those yolks a little bit. And then, whoops, try not to splash it all over the place like I'm doing. And then we are going to just pour this over our casserole mixture and we'll blend it in. As we whisk, we can pour, and then we'll fold that in as well. At this time, I'm also going to add my 2 to 3 cups of cheese, whatever kind you want to use. This is a skim milk based cheese, so it's a little bit lower in fat. And I'm going at the lesser amount of 2 cups instead of the 3 cups. They also say you can add another cup on top of this. So this is a real cheesy recipe. So if you're trying to keep it healthy, because we have all these delicious vegetables in here and boneless, skinless chicken breast, baked, I'm choosing to go with a little bit less cheese in mine. And then instead of putting cheese on the top during baking, it's something people can sprinkle on top if they want a little more as the casserole comes out of the oven and is served on their plate. Sometimes less is more, folks. All right, so once you have mixed everything in really well, we are going to transfer this to a 3-quart casserole dish or a nice sized baking pan. I'm using a bigger one today. 13 by 9 inch pan is typically closer to a 2-quart, so it's going to be a little small on the small side if you're doing the full recipe. We're going to then just add all our casserole mixture right into the pan. And then we can continue to help the mixture along here. Since we're a little more spread out in our pan, you can kind of blend it in, making sure all your ingredients are mixed in well. And this looks like we did. We had a big enough bowl, so that worked out great. So just spread it evenly in your baking dish because you don't want hot spots or cold spots in your casserole. This is a pretty thick mixture here, so we want it to cook evenly, so make it sure it's spread out evenly in your baking dish. And then this is going to go in the oven at 400 degrees for about 50 minutes. So this does take some time, folks. Casseroles usually take longer because we want to heat all the way through, bake, melt that cheese, and become a delicious broccoli cauliflower rice chicken casserole. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. I'll share it in the comments below. Remember, you can always add a little more cheese if you so desire when it's just about done in the oven. Pull it out 10 minutes before, put that cheese on top, and finish baking. Make sure you let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes before serving to cool down just a little bit, because there'll be hot spots in your casserole. So be careful and enjoy your dinner. I'll see you guys tomorrow.